All right, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome for this webinar. I'm grateful to the distinguished speakers for making it convenient to be with us this evening to share their thoughts on this topic, which is very important, and which is the critical competencies for the HR professionals to deal with the COVID-19. And I'm grateful to each one of you for making it convenient to be with us and together this evening. Now, a few words about this platform that we are using. Although I'm assuming that everyone is quite comfortable, it has got certain features, and I would like you to optimize their utility and use it in a way that everybody can benefit from it without being distracted. So the audio and the video option that you have, I would request only the speakers to exercise while you are conducting the webinar, and all the other participants should keep themselves mute and the video should be off. We'll be happy to have your video and the audio on once the question answer session is there. This webinar is being live streamed, and we are also recording it so that somebody needs subsequently can always find it. This also has a chat box, and my request to each one of you is to type only the questions that we can take in the order they appear, and avoid any kind of extra unnecessary hello, hi, because that would distract our attention. We'll also have a small opinion poll just to understand how have you felt about this webinar. The platform is quite simple to use, doesn't have any technicality, but even if it gets dropped, nothing to panic, just click on the link and you'll get connected again. Still, if you need any kind of assistance, so one of my team members is available through cell phone and the WhatsApp. His cell number is given on the 0092-332-5095-136. HR Metrics is organizing this webinar for you, and we have expertise in the 4 niche areas. And we can say that we are the pioneer in Pakistan, in certain cases in the entire region, to introduce 4 things: HR Analytics, SHRM HR Competency Standard, Global Diversity and Inclusion Benchmark Standards, and now the HR Standards, which have been developed by the ISO. We are partnered with the SHRM USA, and SHRM is the world's largest HR association, having more than 70 years of life. It was created in 1948. It's got 575 chapters in the United States and more than 300,000 members in 180 countries. SHRM has got the regular forums in 21 countries, including Pakistan. And SHRM is a one-stop shop for all kinds of tools that can be helpful to a professional for a successful career. And the list is given on your screen. The background of this webinar is this SHRM is already, I think more than 4 years ago, it has developed the HR Competency Standard, which comprises of the 8 behavioral competencies and the 14 technical competencies. I don't want to go into those details. I'm assuming you all would be having that document, but still, if you need, we can provide you subsequently. Now, given the current situation, SHRM has developed a dedicated portal on the coronavirus and the kind of tools that can be required by the organization, and particularly the HR professionals, for the business continuity and the well-being of their workforce. Now, in the same context, we did a survey here in Pakistan, and we tried to understand that what are the key competencies which can be required by the HR professional based on this competency standard. So we identified some of the behavioral competencies like the leadership and navigations, communications, apart from others. These are the competencies in demand, including the business acumen. On account of the functional competencies, which stood at the top include the strategic HR planning, risk management, employee engagement, and the workforce management, and the technology solutions, and a few others. So with this background, I would like to hand over the presenter rights to Sana Javed, who is the country HR manager of the Wattsila, Pakistan. She is SHRM Senior Certified Professional. And for all the SHRM certified professionals, whether this is CP and the SCP, the good news that this webinar is approved for 1.5 PDCs, and this code is available on your screen. You can write it. Still, If you need, subsequently contact us within the next 2 days and we'll be happy to provide you. And you can enter this code into your portal or your app to claim the PDC's credit. With this, I would request Sana to take over, and she would introduce the panel, and she would also walk us through the webinar contents. Thank you, Sana. Over to you. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zahid. Assalamu alaikum, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who has joined us from different parts of the world. I think this is great that the HR community is committed to upskilling and investing time in contributing towards the collaborative learning. For this particular purpose, today we have joined by 6 exceptionally talented HR professionals, not necessarily just from Pakistan. Please allow me to briefly introduce them. We have, first of all, Nadia Akbar Huda, People Director, CBRE GWS, Pakistan. Nadia is a SHRM Senior Certified Professional, and you can just wave Nadia so that everybody knows who you are. Similarly, moving on, then we have Tipu Zahir, Head of Compensation Benefits, Middle East, South Central Asia and Turkey. He's working with NG, joining us from Dubai. Tipu is also a SHRM Senior Certified Professional. So moving on, next we have Dr. Romana Azaz, HR Business Partner working with Bayer Pakistan. Romana is a SHRM Senior Certified Professional as well. Then we have Kashif Halim Rajput, Business Partner Technology and Finance Division, Telenor Pakistan. Kashif is a SHRM Senior Certified Professional too. Then we have Ayman Abdullah, Manager HR British Council. Ayman is a SPHRI by HRCI. Last but not the least, we have Rahim Kabani, Director HR Jeweler, Director HR from jeweler.com, joining us all the way from Canada. Rahim is also a SHRM Senior Certified Professional. Because I can only see 4 or 5 of them. I hope everybody has waved. Now I'd like to request all of you to switch off your video cameras, and I'll take on gradually as we take on the panelists. Thank you so much, everybody. I think for the first time, all the organizations and all the HR are actually sailing, although in their own boats, but with the same sea conditions. And for that, the condition that all of us are facing is called COVID-19. Though it seems very scary, it has actually uprooted a lot of our plans. And until a few months back, we would not have even imagined that this is the bolt of uncertainty that will hit us. And it will all of a sudden bring all of us on a same page and on the same board. Being a SHRM Senior Certified Professional myself, I'm very curious to find out how my colleagues here, who are also the panelists, have leveraged the SHRM body of competency and knowledge framework and put it to use in solving problems. So starting off with the foundation, we all talk about leadership and navigation, and my first question would go to Nadia. If she could share that how this competency, why does she think that this competency is critical, and how has this enabled her to support her business in the pandemic crisis? So Nadia, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sana. Very good question. Even in this survey, 76% people said that leadership is the most relevant competency to deal with COVID-19 situation and to sustain the organization. And even if I'll ask audience, I'm sure most of them will say the same thing. In late 2019 and early 2020, how many of us were prepared for this situation? How many policies were there to deal with this pandemic? How many companies or even countries had a concept of working from home? But as soon as we all entered in this situation, we started analyzing things. We started taking decisions. And this was the time when leadership competency came into play. And this was the time for real HR leaders to shine and to be in the spotlight. And what are the first 2 worries of all leaders when we entered in this situation? First, our employees, and then our businesses. Employees means their health, their well-being, their safety, and businesses means how business will survive, business continuity, business sustainability. So regarding practical steps, what we did, we started analyzing the situation. We took decisions that which service is essential and will remain open, and which services are not essential and will be closed and will be working from home. For essential services, we even accommodated few employees in the factory in the areas where it was difficult for staff to commute due to travel restrictions. In other areas, we implemented work from home policy. We advised account leads to develop their team charters so they know how to remain connected during working hours. What are the timings to follow? How to keep a balance between personal and professional life? How to cope up with stress? What are the mediums to use to remain connected during the day, during working hours? And automatically, technology came into play. Microsoft Teams, Slack, Zoom, WhatsApp group, and then HR partnered with the businesses in identifying savings like negotiations with HR vendors, promoting internal hirings, studying government paid schemes like furlough. And most of us have not heard the word before, I'm sure. Even I learned it during COVID-19 and a lot of other things we did. But what I liked the most was frequent leadership messages of encouragement, of greetings, of thank you, of saying that we are with you. And eventually, what happened? We saw good financial results in quarter 1 and more engaged employees. We had to take some difficult decisions also, like delay in merit increase, detailed discussions on cost reductions, change in benefits, layoffs. I'm not saying that all decisions are right. There could be decisions which needs improvement, but we all are learning in this situation. We all are taking decisions on daily basis, and it's a learning journey for all of us. But in short, HR leadership is very important, and it's a very big responsibility for taking fair, transparent, and informed decisions, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nadia. I think you very eloquently briefed how HR plays a very mainstream role in deciding and supporting the businesses in trying to figuring out solutions to the problems. And HR's capability to lead and navigate through these challenges that earns it a seat on the table. So a lot of decision making that you've just mentioned happens in during these business meetings, and data plays a very significant role. So Tipu, I would like to pose my next question to you as to how critical evaluation proves to be the magic potion that brings credibility to HR decision making.
Sure, Sana, thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I think you use the word magic. I would kind of allow me to kind of use another expression, which is more an opportunity. So indeed, I think this pandemic has put all of us in a situation where we have to really go, I would say, into the backseat and revisit a lot of our processes, a lot of our ways of doing things, and adapt accordingly. And why to do so? Because we all want to be agile, because the present landscape, the business environment asks us to be so. I think this, when I say opportunity, is the right moment where I think as HR professionals, now is really the time and an opportunity where we are seen as business leaders as well, and supporting organizations through their journey of leadership and steering them and trying to help them navigate through critical data evaluation and analysis. I think in the interest of time and out of interest from the audience as well, I would straight away, I would say, try to kind of use some practical simulations. So you see, the pandemic has not affected all industry the same, and this seems the same within GCC. But I think my knowledge of GCC would be quite easily translated to any other geography in a very practical and in a very professional situation and setting as well. And when I say so, you see aviation, where we see aviation is the major big impact when it comes to financial management around staff costs and similar costs. But we have seen that in utilities, for example, in order to run the essential services, because if the electricity will be produced, only then your essentials, which is hospitals, which are the most in the spotlight in this pandemic, would continuously be able to service without any interruptions. So staff need to be there supporting business operations 24/7. So that data analysis, that trend analysis, that predictive mechanism help us to kind of take another view that it's not about salary reductions, It's more about introducing a fair mechanism of rewards so that your employee workforce feel motivated, they feel engaged, they feel that the employer is taking right measures to ensure business continuity. This is one. Secondly, everybody is anxious in this time, whether it is personal, whether it is more like I would say, because we are also working from home, we have our families to manage. We have a lot of stress, which is physical, which is mental. So we have introduced something, I would say, which is more about mood indicator. And if you just keep it to a very subjective yardstick, that okay, your mood is fine. No, it is really resting on a very sound indicators, which then use when you use, you kind of I would say bring it to each country and try to understand it within the business lines within those countries, because not everywhere you are in one stream of business. There are groups who are operating in different business lines. So I think these kind of interventions help you get a very, I would say, sound position on the board table and explain your, I would say, rationale, your approach to help steer the organization taking the right decisions, which my colleague has kind of identified in the beginning. And what all has to be seen, because when you're talking about data, it seems at times a bit boring stuff as well, but this all has to be seen in the ambit of our duty of care. And when I say so, as a responsible employer, but as a responsible employee, we have to kind of sail this period together. So I think there are a lot of responsibilities around labor relations, where I think as responsible employers, we need to play our role. So I think I would, for the time being, sum it up in this way, that I think where this is no doubt unprecedented times, but it offers a lot of opportunity. And I think it's a period where we need to show a lot of optimism by playing a professional role, but also playing a very caring role, which is supported with good data management. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tipu. I think data-backed decision-making has become a need of the hour, especially during the current crisis. And I think all HR professionals need to amp up their data skills based on that. For all of these decision making that we do, they eventually have to be communicated. And Romana, my next question would be posed to you, that communications of these decisions, plans, and strategies businesses make on the go give us an insight into the cultural health of an organization. What is your communication design tips and tricks for our audience given the COVID-19 situation?
Thank you, Sana, for having me here today. Thank you, Zahid. And I will continue with what my fellow speakers have already said. And yes, whatever you have said, data is very important, and the leadership team, of course, is very important. They are taking decisions. But in this panic times, we need to communicate even better than what we were doing before. The communication, as you said, that what are the steps, I'll go there later, but the communication should be quick, it should be factual, and it should be continuous. And in these times when leaders' words and actions are the ones which are going to make the employee feel safe and cared about, and it is also going to prove their authenticity as a leader and build a trustful relationship with the employees. So when you talk about communication, communication model consists of 5 components. We have a communicator, then there's message, then there's medium, receiver, and feedback. So as we discussed in the leadership navigation, that we have leaders who are going to be communicating. So who are these leaders who are going to be communicating in these tough times? These leaders, most of the organization, and our organization has also made a crisis committee, which is consisted of the business leaders. It is consisted of HR leaders, administration, and communication guys. So this is the committee who is going to be communicating. So what are they going to be communicating? As we talked about data analysis, and we talked about that in these times, we need to know what is happening. We need to know what is happening to the business. We need to know what is happening in these COVID times, pandemic, how it is moving, how it is shifting. And we also want to know what is happening to the employees. How are they feeling? Are they stressed? Are they feeling anxiety? Are they conscious about their health? Are they worried about their mental health? All this is going to come into messages. So this information is very important for us to make a message and communicate to our internal employees and to our external stakeholders. So these messages need to be formed very well with the data which is already there, and leaders who are forming these messages should be very conscious of what they are putting out in these messages. These messages are then sent out to the employees. So what are the mediums which are being used at this time? The mediums which we are using are town halls, then there are basically webinars, which we are right now having, Zoom meetings are having, we are having Zoom meetings. Then there are WhatsApp meetings and groups which are being formed. And beside that, we also have one-to-one communication with our employees, which is very important. So when we talk about these town halls and mediums, we also need to see that the messages which are formed and we have these mediums are getting to all the employees in the organization and all our stakeholders out there. So for that, HR and other team members have to ensure that everyone has the internet connectivity, they have the medium from where they are going to be getting the messages, are they getting the emails, are they able to connect on these Zoom meetings and on these My Team meetings and on these town hall meetings. If they are not able to connect and get these messages, then it is going to go all void, and these messages are not going to reach anywhere. So who are the receivers? As I already said, that we are going to have internal stakeholders and external stakeholders who are going to be receiving these messages. So the internal stakeholders can be your employees, whom we are concerned about their safety and their health, and we want to ensure them that we are taking all the measures to provide them with the right information at this time. Along with that, if we talk about the external stakeholders, that can be our doctors, that can be whichever industry we are working with. Our customers are our stakeholders, our dealers are our stakeholders, our farmers are our stakeholders. Then internally, our employees are our stakeholders. Is everyone getting a message? So every message is going to form in a manner that they reach the right stakeholders. And in the end, how can we make the communication better? And how can we make it a continuous process? For that, we need to have feedback. Feedback can be taken through pulse surveys, short pulse surveys, which is going to let us know how the employees are feeling or how our other customers are feeling. We can have a one-to-one discussion with them. We need to know how they are feeling, and is this message fulfilling the needs which they have at this point of time. So this feedback is going to make us formulate another communication for our stakeholders. So that is the process of communication, and I would say that we can just create trust relationship with our people if we are sending out the right messages. Thank you, Sana, and you can take over now.
Thank you very much, Ramana. Thank you so much. Usually, HR professionals are juggling both HR competencies with respect to functional and behavioral. And then oftentimes these are so inseparable that it becomes very difficult to differentiate between them. And one such example is that of a strategic HR. So my next question would be towards Kashif. How important a role has strategic HR or business partnership competency played in you fighting the situation right now that we call the pandemic crisis?
Thank you so much, Sana, for putting up this question. And for many of us, toughest leadership test is now looming, that how to bring business back in an environment which eventually has become a new normal now. As you know, this pandemic is bringing a lot of disruption in life. Our lifestyle is transforming. We are developing new habits. Consumer buying behaviors are changing. New way of work are evolving. In fact, there's a lot of things which we still don't know yet. But what we know, that business are encountering with extreme transformational challenges. On one side, they have extreme cost pressure, but on other hand, they need business is looking for some kind of the new venture, so they can stay productive and competitive in the environment. And for business to give a strong comeback, HR has a larger role to play, because we have embarked on the journey where it must to foster the culture of innovation, where employees are encouraged to pivot new ideas, new solution, where growth mindset needs to be flourished, employee ready to upskills, ready to adopt new digital skill set, tools, and leaders are going to be ready to adopt to the new capabilities. So if I look into the current priority on the HR card, uh, uh, the top thing is that HR really need to think about that, how the people are going to be the best fit for the going forward and support the business ambition. And for that, business HR needs to collaborate with leaders to rethink, revitalize the overall business model. So if you look at the current pandemic situation, we can see the lot of business are revitalizing, they're changing their business model. For example, in fact, if I look into the small businesses, they are actually relying on their digital challenge. If I look into the sales organization, so they really would like to avoid any physical interaction between customer and the supplier. They're really thinking about remote kind of sales model. They would like to leverage on the sales distribution model. If we look into in our own industry in HR, so it's more about, we are more relying on online assessment for the recruitment. We relying towards how chatbot going to be help us in for the candidates screening, and how digital onboarding going to be happens. And there's a lot of things. And the later example is online schooling as well. So the thing is, the business model are changing, and so as the expectation are changing. So there are certain things which now HR being the HR professional, we have a huge responsibility on our shoulder, which we really need to validate because due to change in the business model. So do we have the right workforce composition with us? So if the workforce composition going to be changed, this would have an impact on the organization design. Do we really need too many people? Do we need less people? What kind of the skill set we're going to need? What do we have the capability to meet the future target? So how the organization design we're going to have an impact on overall way of work. So if we are saying they're going to be the more reliant on the virtual tools, so what would be the impact on the leadership behaviors, leadership style? So we need to move from the micromanagement, from the empowerment kind of the style. And if there's a change in the leadership style, there's going to be a change on the employees' behavior as well. So things are evolving, and that's how being the HR professional, we need to think accordingly. We need to use tools, HR strategic tools accordingly, which going to be the fit well in order to achieve the bigger picture of the business.
Thank you so much, Kashif. I think you very rightly put that if your business model is resilient, organizations tend to be more withstanding towards the crisis that's sort of entering into a panic zone. And generally what happens is that when the business model is not resilient, stakeholders, shareholders, everybody goes into a panic zone. And when I talk about panic, the first thing that comes to my head is employees, because obviously a lot is at stake for them, their jobs, their households, their personal lives, their professional lives, their future, everything that they've planned comes to a standstill over here with a lot of uncertainty and unpredictability. And the biggest challenge for HR right now is how to keep them motivated, how to keep them engaged, and more importantly, how to keep them connected with the employer brand that HR and the organizations have spent a lot of energy and a lot of money to build. So my next question would be towards Eamon. Eamon, can you please help us with some of the very practical tips that you might help us, to take away from today's webinar as to how organizations can still engage their employees, although they're facing cash flow issues. So what is your tip to us for that?
Thank you, Sana. I hope my video is visible because I can see it on the...
Yeah, you're perfectly fine.
Excellent. Well, it's a lovely question and one that's very close to my heart. I think this is a very difficult time, and all of my panelists have started their conversations with acknowledging what a difficult time this is. Interestingly, when we speak about business, this is the time that organizations are actually ending up choosing people over business or business over people, even though we all know that the equation is that people are driving our businesses. So what is going on over here when we know that our primary asset right now is the one in complete crisis, in complete psychological crisis? People are feeling nervous. People are getting panic attacks like Sana mentioned here. They're feeling stuck. There is lethargy. Everyone is having sleeping problems. On the South Asian side of the, on the Muslim element of it, we have Ramzan to balance along with it. There is a fear of job. There is a fear of generally, human interaction. You don't want to be stepping out, going out. So, so much is going on, and organizations have actually lost that feeling of family, of an office family. How do we connect back to our employees? How do we keep that interaction alive? I've seen a lot of examples that organizations have been taking, and they have been pretty successful. It's about remembering that we are now missing that engagement element. We are not connecting to people the same way. We are not acknowledging that there's a person, a human being on the other side of the camera or, a phone. So we have MS Teams, everything is digital. There's no body language that we can see. So some of the initiatives I'm just gonna list here. There's a lot to add here, but I'm gonna try to name a few off the top of my head because we all have limited time here. A few things that have worked with us that I've seen are, first and foremost, very honest, forthcoming information about what the organization is looking at in terms of COVID, what steps it wants to take. And I think Romana has covered a lot in those elements. Then there's the contribution of leadership, what it communicates down to its employees. And then finally, it's about breaking down those communications into informal channels. So for example, making sure your you have mandatory team meetings where you ask people to switch on videos and have informal conversations. And then there are other elements that we have all experienced, such as someone just knocking the door or coming in, a nephew coming in, a child coming in. I don't know if you're able to hear the bell behind me, but but things like that. That's happening to everyone, and we need to realize that that's something that everyone is struggling with. So giving them platforms to connect on, engagement initiatives such as Monday Mehfil, where employees can come and showcase their talents or read out poetry that is close to their heart, that relates to the environment that they were struggling with, trivia challenges, quizzes, learning sessions. This is the time to actually, if anyone has downtime, this is the time for to go for digital learning or polish your skills, anything that you're passionate about, anything that is going to enhance your career. There are other things such as yoga sessions, Pilates sessions, well-being sessions, online gaming. So basically anything and everything that you can come up with as leadership or HR, which connects your workforce together and makes everyone realize that we're basically all on the same page. And that's what makes the people connect back to the organization, because as Maya Angelou said, you forget about what people did to you, but you'll never forget how people made you feel. So this is the time that organizations, that everyone will remember how they were treated at a time of difficulty. So when business actually recovers, we want those employees to be fully engaged and to realize that the organization was actually there for them. At the end of the day, that's what's gonna contribute back to business.
Thank you so much, Ayman. I think you've pointed out some very interesting points. Yes, we are going to go back to our businesses. So that's a very optimistic thought that I think we all should be actually seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not like we're going to stuck with COVID forever. So inshallah, we are going to beat it. Second thing that you just mentioned was that, setting the equation right. And yes, the people factor, the human factor can never be separated from the businesses. And a lot of organizations are right now focusing on user, how we, in the design principles, we talk about user experience. Right now, we're talking about employee experience, and taking it one step ahead, we are talking about human experience instead of using employee experience as a term. So the concept of social enterprise is getting a lot of boom, and where organizations are equally, taking care of the society and the environment that they're working in, and corporate social responsibility sort of budded out of it. So my next question would be to Rahim, who has joined us from Canada. And maybe he can share us that how Canada, especially being a welfare state, and automatically when you talk about Canada, you think that everything is taken care of and nobody has to worry about a thing. So how has his experience been regarding CSR as a strategy during the pandemic time? So Rahim, your valuable thoughts on that.
Sure. Thank you, Sana. Good morning to everyone. I don't have a great background Ayman had with all the mountain and plants and trees. I am in my car right now. Can't get into the office at this point again. Practicing physical distancing. We're trying to limit ourselves as to how many people do we allowed in a manufacturing facility at a certain point in time. All these things talks about our corporate social responsibility, not just from the perspective of what we give to the society back, but what else are we doing for our employees and things like that. When Zaid shared the survey, it wasn't a surprise when all these top leaders, more than 50% of the people talked about corporate social responsibility in this time of a pandemic. I think the end result to all of that is we are all in it together. From the organization perspective, we also have to think, how can we help and how do we play our role? So when the COVID-19, I guess, started back in, February, March timeframe, and all these measures were taken to shut down a lot of facilities. Of course, all the organizations had made tough choices in layoff situations or closing down their operations. But every organization has to think, what can we do to survive, right? And what can we do to help others survive as well? As we said, we're all in this together. So one of the things my organization did is we use N95 masks in our production facility. We actually looked at our inventory, and what we did is we took whatever we did not need it, just to survive. We kept some of that, and rest of them we donated to the hospitals and healthcare, because at that time there was a very big shortage of all the healthcare, PPEs, personal protective equipment. The other thing what we started to doing is we started to think, what can we do? I work in a manufacturing facility and we produce jewelry, which in the first instance, if you have to think about it, what can we do? From the jewelry perspective, to help the society that we are in. One of the great ideas that one of the technicians came up with is, let's start making a face shield. And that was kind of interesting. We moved from manufacturing jewelry into actually making face shields, and we started donating all these face shields to our frontline workers, to hospitals, and we kept dropping shipment after shipment until now we are okay, and now there's not too many requests. But that's how we played our part in that situation. So every time I think we challenge HR people are challenged with these issues, we as leaders have to come up with surviving techniques, and also how do we help others in the society, and how do we play our role, being the leaders in our organization. So that was, initial phase. And now when we are, started to seeing a normal resumption, not normal, but what is normal, I guess, at this point in time. I don't know if we ever will be going back to the normalcy, but whatever we have right now, we're still thinking of ways to doing it. And we're working on now a hero project where we will honor our people who are in the front line, people especially in the Medicare and healthcare setup. And that's, again, our way of appreciating what the society, and other people are doing, and we're playing our part in that equation as well. Thank you. Over to you, Sana.
Thank you so much. I think this is one good example of being an agile HR, taking calls from wherever you can, be it even a car. So thank you for joining us, Rahim. After listening to everybody's accounts and stories, I think all of us in the audience has a lot of questions as well. And more or less those questions, I am also looking at the chat box. I am also looking some of the questions that are related to the future, which is our second round. We have been somehow managed to, Rahim, can you please mute yourself, because I think your mic is still on. Thank you so much. So after hearing everybody, I think we can conclude one thing for sure, that during the COVID times, our organizations were in good hands. Although we were learning on the fly, everything was very agile. Every day the situation changed. It changed with respect to the business. It changed with respect to the deliverables that the businesses had to deliver. It changed with respect to the changing situation of the COVID. One day we are deciding, okay, let's resume from tomorrow. And then the next day you hear that the government has put in a complete lockdown. And the third day you will hear that now that the lockdown has been converted into a full-fledged curfew. So from legal restrictions to organizational or corporate restrictions to the WHO restrictions, I think HR has maneuvered itself very wisely and very smartly. And I can say that truly HR has proved its mettle during the COVID times, because it didn't come with a memo. We didn't have any precedents to go back to and see, okay, what was being done in the past regarding these things. So I think we thought on the fly, we acted on the fly. I think we acted very agile, and that has given a lot of support to the businesses and reinstated the trust that HR always wanted, putting HR at the driving seat for the first time, if not, and I hope that it's not the last. So that is today, that is now, that is the present. Now moving on, what do we need to have for future? We will definitely get out of the pandemic. We will definitely go back and resume our offices. We will sit on our desks, enjoy that coffee, go and get it with our friends or our colleagues, but with certain things definitely to be changed. So my next question is to all the panelists, and it's just one question that everybody has to share their own thoughts about, and that is how the future of HR climate looks like once the pandemic is over, or when we are going back to the business and when we are going back and resuming our offices. So my question would start with the same cycle. And Nadia, could you please share your thoughts on how things would be different once we go back to our offices?
Well, very important question, Sana, regarding future workplaces. And I was happy to learn few things from different countries and from different accounts during our meetings. First of all, that a lot of planning is required and is being made to ensure employee safety and future of workplaces. There's a response and recovery program that how different functions will work, like supply chain, HR, finance, business, whether all are needed in the office at the same time, and how to communicate, how the communication will be made for return to work. Last Friday, fortunately, I attended a session on Innovation Champion, where I saw different amazing things during presentations and sharing of best practices. At least I haven't seen these things before, like discussions on putting antibacterial door handles, an extension on door handles so that you can open through your elbows, temporary protective glass and screens for workstation and for reception area to avoid the spread of this disease. I wish I could show the pictures. Air purifiers, filters, signages at cafeteria, elevators, etc. UV light mobile cleanser, where you can put your mobile and small things to get it sanitized. Workstation maps with zigzag arrangement to keep 2 meters distance, not only for workstations, but in meeting rooms, in conference rooms, even in cafeterias. And then entry exits marked on floor with stickers. Sanitizing stations where you can put your sanitizers, masks, wipes, like we have seen in kiosks and telephone booths. Sanitizing tunnels at receptions where people can pass through. So all countries and accounts are using their creativity and innovation for our biggest asset, that is our employee and their safety. And the best part is that we are becoming more health and hygiene conscious. So future of work is very bright.
That's true. I think Nadia, what she just mentioned is how physical spaces going back to our work are going to change. They are going to be super fancy with all the right protocols. that will keep us safe, that will ensure that the environment is safe. So I think that that is indeed a very important first step towards resuming our offices, because if you are not sure whether you will have your hand sanitizers or your sanitizing showers that you experience these days in some organizations, I think that will put back the trust and the comfort to going back. Tipu, next, what do you have for us? What do you think that the ammunition that HR needs to go back?
So I think I would take the opportunity that we keep hearing the new normal. So I think again, I think we are spending too much time in I would say reading and also keeping pace with the new trends which are happening. So there's a term which is being coined, which is never normal actually. So I think for me that never normal is an interesting insight. But what does this mean is basically that I think there would be new ways of looking at things. So for sure, climate has come up as a very important element, and I think we have seen statistics and again data proving this, that how where you had less traffic on the road, say only the necessity functions even in the business environment, which are supposed to contribute, has resulted in making the environment or making the air more clean. Similarly, I also foresee, again on some credible data reading which has been done over the last few weeks, that I think there would be lean workforce working from the offices. So which means that work from home would be not a will never be a new normal or a never normal. It will be the mode of operations, which virtually means that we need to be more digitalized, we need to be more automated, and there would be more agility in our decision making as well, because a lot of bureaucratic processes which generally probably in some large organizations or in structures which are a bit too heavy, we see that because of the structure would become more lean. So that's again something which I think I also would take the opportunity in explaining that I think, and that's purely my own personal view out of either being part of a lot of discussions, reading and stuff, that I also see that there would be some interesting insights how we define profit as well, whether it is for the shareholders, whether it is for in the eyes of the stakeholders as well. Because I think one of my colleagues has already mentioned during their conversation that I think this is a pandemic or is a period where we have seen that people, organizations have put their people across the board, irrespective of the geography, irrespective of the nature of the business. Their first attempt, I think, across the globe has been to put people at the top. So, which is interesting, but let's see how the financials, or I would say how this goes further. And is it really that the organizations would be able to then take it to the next level and do the right decision making around people? So I think that's it from my side.
Thank you, Tipu. I think you've mentioned very rightly that the no normal situation. I think, although I'd like to be more positive, more optimistic on that, I think we will define a new normal and then we'll continue with that, because that is what happened with the past pandemics as well. So, and a lot of that vote is actually banked on us getting a vaccination soon and not later. Next panelist that we have is Romana. And Romana, what are your thoughts about how HR needs to prepare itself for the future?
So I will talk about the culture of the organization. I can clearly see, and with a lot of discussions which are going on and what a lot of material which is coming up, we know that things, as Tipu also mentioned, that there is going to be a new normal. There is going to be a new norm which is going to be set during this time of COVID. So we are going to see that people will be working virtually a lot, as he mentioned. And in this, there is a possibility that we don't have full-time jobs. There's going to be project-based jobs. And if we talk about project-based jobs, then it is also going to be affecting the talent. pipelines in the organizations. If we are going to go out and hire people who are going to be doing project-based jobs for us, and they are not going to be full-time employees, if all the organizations start doing like that, so we'll have more talent available in the market, and it is going to be easier to get talent in the organization. And then if there is virtual working going to happen, then talent cannot be from Pakistan. It's not going to be localized. It can be from anywhere around the world, and we can have our projects done. The other thing which I feel that at this time people are very apprehensive, when I was talking to employees, I realized that some seniors who are above 55 and some juniors who have recently or I would say call them millennials, who have recently joined the organization, they feel that they are very tech savvy, and they can use all these forums and all these gadgets to do their work. But when it comes to seniors, we find them to be very experienced. They have a lot of knowledge, but when it comes to digitalization, we need to connect. As HR people, we need to connect these two generations. We have to start a reverse mentoring or mentorships between these two generations, so that we can value both of them in the organization. So beside that, I see that there is going to be a lot of resilience and adaptability in the long run. So we are not like, change is going to be a new normal. So we have to adapt to new situations. And we talk about resource optimization. It was discussed by Nadia earlier. But I've seen a lot of companies, they are sending out these brochures of shared office space, where you don't need to have an office, but your employees can go and work at any office space where there is net availability. You don't, if you cannot work from home, you can go and work at these shared office spaces. Then we can talk about robotic process automation. There, of course, we right now are also doing a lot of automation. A lot of SOPs are being signed with electronic signatures. There are a lot of things which are being approved electronically. There are a lot of recruitment processes which are now going online. How we are hiring our people, how we are doing our performance management systems, planning, check-ins, all this is going to go on the system. It is going to be digitalized, it's going to be automated. And I see these are the changes which are going to be happening in the long run. If I have not mentioned less travel, of course, less travel is going to, of course, move us towards more virtual discussions and virtual forums. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Romana. You very rightly mentioned that a lot of our job evaluation landscape is going to change. So, you know, the traditional way of evaluating a job, there's going to be another parameter added. Can this job be done from home? This particular one definition of how we're going to work in the future, either in the office premises or virtually from homes, is also going to impact the way we structure our benefit structure. Because a lot of benefits that we are not giving right now, like we're giving fuel, we're giving cars, maybe we want to replace them with giving them data connectivity, with giving them high-end internet speed facilities. So a lot of things are then correlated to just us deciding whether some jobs are going to be done from home virtually and some to be done at the office premises. So I think this is just a stepping stone. If we think in the right direction, we'll get to know that a lot of things then have more room for us further thoughts. And that takes me to the next panelist, that is Kashif. Kashif, you belong to the telecom sector, so give us something technical, give us something technologically savvy to sort of learn and take, and then get our skills up. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity again. So basically, you know, the things are changing as we talk about, you know, it's a rapid change all over the industry. So, and the main disruption is the technology. So the technology is changing every day, and that's, you know, bringing a lot of new things in the field of the HR. And being the HR professional, we really need to adopt with, you know, the technology or the digital transformation. Actually, HR need to transform itself from from the normal way of work to the digital kind of the way of work. And once I'm saying the digital transformation, it doesn't mean only the HRIS system. It's more than that. So we're talking about the data. We're talking about the predictive analysis. We're talking about how you're gonna employ future gonna be look like, or how we're gonna predict that future out of the data. So the thing is, now we need to further capitalize on the technology. So the new things are just dragging into the HR field. There's artificial intelligence. There is a chatbots. So one of my panelist colleague talk about the online recruitment systems. We're talking about now the online digital onboarding for the new employees. So and there's online the performance management system. So there are a lot of things, lot of opportunity in the HR to transform from into the digital kind of way of work. So we really need to see where the opportunities are. How we gonna further digitalize our database? How we gonna further capitalize on our database and get some tailor-based, customized solution for our employees? Remember, this is the millennium which we are dealing now. They have the different needs. They have a different kind of the approaches, and they have a very small span of attention to the job. So the thing is, we really need to customize our policies, our solutions, our tools according and more capitalize on the technology. So let's say if I may talk about chatbot can be used in the HR operations thing, and that can further remove kind of duplication of work. That can be used in the payroll system. That can be used in normal operations related work. So the normal repetitive work can be replaced with the chatbot, and that's very much doable. Same goes with the recruitment cycle. So there's a lot of online recruitment tools available which is incorporated through the artificial intelligence, and one can get a good screening of for the candidates. So the punchline here is that we really need to think and transform ourselves towards the digital journey.
Yeah. Thank you, Kashif. Exactly what I had expected. Actually, when we talk about robots, we actually imagine the robots that we see in the movies. So that's not what bots mean. There are a lot of tools out there, open source tools that you can use. As Romana mentioned, RPA, robotic process automation. I think this is a very next generation of HR professionals, sort of upskilling themselves in this technology. A lot of routine procedural things that we do on systems, we can automate them using these bots, and they are not physical bots, they're actually software bots. I think this is a very good key takeaway for our audiences over here to sort of go back and research on RPA, on robotic process automation, because definitely this was the future, but I think COVID just speeded up. I think COVID has put a foot on the race, and everybody has to really upskill themselves really fast. And RPA is one of them, going to be a need of the hour in the future. Next, we have Ayman. Ayman, what are your thoughts on what HR needs to look into for the future?
I think for me, one of the largest changes that we'll see is how COVID has canceled a lot of things for us, and we are not acknowledging that right now. Human interaction, handshakes, a pat on the back, a job well done pat on the back, normal water cooler or corner talks that we have with our colleagues. All of that, I think that's going to be impacted. The way that we sit or the way that we whisper or gossip with each other. That's what we've missed out on, but there's a lot of opportunity as well that has opened. It has opened an entirely new portal on how we have more time, how everyone right now is in a mode of introspection. They are working on their awareness. They're thinking about the things that they really wanted to do in life. Everyone is asking the big questions. Everyone is thinking about climate. Everyone is thinking about the larger questions of life. Were we meant to do this? Is this how life was supposed to be? So naturally, as a workforce, we will become smarter, we will become more self-aware, and the stigma that is attached to, psychological problems or well-being, particularly in South Asia or Pakistan, I would say, I think that's going to significantly reduce. We will be smarter, we will understand other people better. Our empathy is bound to increase because we have realized that everyone is going through the same things. Everyone has similar priorities. Everyone is concerned about the security of their families. Everyone has common things. So based on that common ground, I think our workforce will be smarter, more intelligent in terms of they'll understand what they want to do. They will work harder because they've been through a tougher time. And HR professionals particularly will have to be very well versed in well-being and psychology and understanding the struggles of coming back to work. Now that we've spent 6 weeks in isolation with 5 people maybe at home, some of us much less than that, will we actually be all right when we go back to work and suddenly we are around 100 people? It will be a struggle to suddenly be with everyone and suddenly start meeting all those people. We will face the same anxieties that we felt when we started going into isolation. So all of that needs to be considered by HR when the workforce comes back. I think other colleagues have touched a lot on what the workplace is going to look like, what the spaces are going to look like. But there's a lot of work that needs to go into how the workforce will adapt back into the organization. And that's obviously going to come from the workforce itself. How are you feeling? Is everything all right? What can we do better? Do we need more space? Do we need to, work from home more often now that we've gotten used to it? So I think to summarize, I think that's a vital thing that we need to look at. We need to remember that our workforce is human, has been through something, and we need to create an environment for them to keep delivering in the context of what everyone has been through. Thank you.
Yes, I think very rightly pointed out that in psychological terms, we use the word conditioning and unconditioning. And I think we've been conditioned. First, we were being unconditioned from, over socializing, and then we had to condition ourselves into, social distancing and keeping. And now I think once we go back, we'll have to recondition ourselves into getting used to the human interaction again. So I think, thank you so much. This was, I think, very useful. The psychological aspect for HR is very important because we are the students of organizational behavior and human behavior. So I think this is a very, very valid point from your end. Now, moving to our last contributor, and I see now you're out of your car into the office. So Rahim, so please share your thoughts with us.
Yeah, I guess it's rightly pointed out by people, things would change. And I think a lot of change for us as well. I'm in the office right now, just being allowed to get into the office. So here is the norm. We in Canada have started to, I guess, slowly ramp up our operations and things like that. And a few things that, of course, has changed for us is from the health and safety perspective. A lot has changed. Even though I sit in my office by myself, I still have to wear the mask now. And when people are coming inside to talk to HR, of course, we'll have to put the mask up. There's a temperature control gun when we are actually taking body temperatures of employees as well. It is also something that we're finding, becoming a norm for us. Hand hygiene, of course, everybody has seen that has been a norm. Symptoms disclosure for COVID-19 is something that, again, is part of our process that we have implemented, where employees have to disclose if they have any of those COVID-related 19 symptoms, or if they've been in touch with anybody who had one of those, for example. Common room cleaning is happening more often. We're not fortunate, like I guess, many other countries where you'll have people dedicated to do that. We actually have our teams. Different teams are actually doing workplace cleaning and sanitizing, common spaces, for example, cleaning laptops or cleaning keyboards and things like that. I think the one other thing that we are constantly doing is we're constantly risk assessing and seeing what is out there and what could happen. So for example, if an employee has reported a COVID-19 related illness, and he was or she was working in the factory, in the manufacturing unit, how is it going to impact that? Of course, from the process perspective, we'll have to shut down, we'll have to disinfect the whole process. But I think what we need to start seeing, or we need to start thinking about, is HR ready to implement all these policies and procedures in place? And I think I'll leave everyone with the thought, when you're thinking about all those things, think about health and safety and what would be your role in defining that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the cornerstones of moving forward would be that up until now in organizations, quality, environment, health and safety is given to a specific department, but I think health and safety would come back and have a little branch and a little home in the HR department as well, where your company manuals and your handbooks, employee handbooks, will have a dedicated chapter to it. One more thing that I'd like to also add is that the HR documentation that we have with respect to contracts, with respect to employee contracts and your employee handbooks and your manuals, I think those will also undergo a change, where these conditions and possibility of these conditions and what will entail once these conditions are triggered, those things will have to be sort of defined, or at least brought into the ambit of possibility that these can happen. So thank you so much for your contributions, for your really honest feedbacks and your honest experiences that you've shared with us in the audience. I would like to now go on to questions that I think we have in the chat, unless Zahid, you want to say something. Otherwise, I'll just move on to taking questions because we are also heading towards our iftar time. So I would like to go ahead, directly dive into the questions that we have from the audiences. And I'd also like to request everybody to sort of switch on their videos, all the panelists, so that I can pose questions to all of us.
And I'm comfortable with it. Go ahead with the question, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so I have marked one question that I really liked. I think it was like, I really would like to know more about fair rewarding system during this time and how to evaluate performance while working remotely. I am sure the reward mechanism will be connected accordingly. I think this is it's a very pertinent question, and a very rightly asked at a very right time. So I would like to pose this question to Tipu, if he's with us. Yeah.
Of course, Sana. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
I think you're right. An interesting question which asks some insights, and I would say already some proactive management, what the future holds for us. But to be honest, I will very frankly admit that there is no magic solution to it, and at the moment there is no magic answer to it. But yes, I would rather say that there is an approach to be followed. So the approach is that certainly there would be, we foresee, and that is the market trends, and a lot of critical data analysis is leading us to see, and I think we have talked about it, that there would be, say, different work mechanism which will be established. So there would be lean workforce from the office. There would be more, I would say, the projects, it would be more project-based assignments, project-based work which will be kind of adapted for the future. So then we have to also introduce some flexible ways of rewarding it. So there would be already a thought, and I'm kind of part of a lot of I would say forums, a lot of thinking bodies, even within the larger GCC as well, that the flexi benefits would start sinking in. So that I would say you would have a basket of those benefits, and you would then kind of pick and choose, adapting to the kind of project, or adapting to the kind of scope which needs to be rewarded. This is one. Second is that in terms of because I find that interesting remark, that fair reward mechanism. So you see, fairness is important both ways. Where I already explained when I was speaking that some sectors or some industries have asked people to really, even while people were working from home, these people were working on site. They were working on plants 24/7, in even at times in very difficult accommodation, in very difficult environments as well. So as an organization, there is a fairness to reward them more what they are already getting. At the same time, there are people who have been, say, when you talk about GCC, there are people who have been, say, stuck in in different parts of the world. They are unable to come resume their office. What organization has to take a should we take a very black and white view and just kind of don't pay them? No, people have their rentals secured. They have their houses here. They were unable to come and join because of the travel restrictions. And I would just relate this expression to what Rahim mentioned. Organizations are using their CSR budgets to really showcase that I think our first responsibility under the responsibility of being a social employer is towards our own people as well. So why not use your balance sheet, use your numbers to also manage your workforce and maintain job security at this point in time. So I would say now to bring towards a bit of a summary, because we are all sensitive to the Ramadan time, that at the moment, I think there would be no magic solution, but as we need to be on top of what different trends are happening, how we foresee those trends and adapt to our environment. Overall framework has to be certainly that it has to be fair and it has to be competitive as well, both from an external market viewpoint, but also from an internal equity viewpoint as well. I hope I've been able to do some justice. Sorry.
Yeah, I think what moving forward, what we cannot separate from the rewarding structure is that it needs to have some meaning for the people who are getting it. The whole rewarding system, the benefit system, it revolves around the meaningfulness of it to the employees that you're giving. So you have to stay very closely connected to the changing value of the rewarding system that you have in place, and especially with the affordability of the business. So I think when you plug these two input, output, and form a system, I think you will be able to devise new strategies with respect to the rewarding system that means something for the employee that you're designing it for. The next question that I'd like to take up is that
Just like to something what Tipu has already said. Are you okay with it?
Sure, go ahead.
In fact, as he mentioned that this fairness is a very relative term. And once you use this relative term, it is said that beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. So on one hand, that we expect fairness from the employer, we also need to keep in mind that the organizations work in the proposition which is called economic democracy. So if there's everything on the growth side, yes, we expect a kind of growth for the employees, a better share in financial form. But if there's no growth, then we need to realize. So it's not just a matter of expecting something from the employer, because in the broader context, everybody has certain obligations or the responsibilities and the rights. For example, employer has the responsibilities and certain rights. The employees have certain rights and responsibilities. So both the parties have to reconcile. And I really like the term never normal. I think from here onward, the complexity is never normal. And we have to be more realistic in terms of expectations that it's not going to be a routine phenomenon. So we have to just reconcile. And the gentleman of that, what you call the great e-commerce company, the biggest in the China, he said that
Jack Ma.
Jack Ma. And he said that this 2020 is the year of survival. So I think we have to now focus more on survival first and then think about the recovery and the growth. That's all I wanted to contribute. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Zahid. The next question is that in the HR life and COVID tradition, whole dynamics will change. Yeah, we've already covered that. There was one with, what should be the best strategic management tool in this pandemic to apply in truly positive manner? Kashif, I think you took up strategic management, so maybe you can help. What is the one tool that of strategic management tool that people can or HR can use in a positive way during this time?
Well, thank you so much. Well, I can't name one strategic tool here because it's totally depend on what's actually the problem is. Because the first thing is we need to diagnose the problem, whether the problem is related to the culture, whether the problem is related to the business result. Is the thing is the first step would be the problem identification. And then once we know that this is a problem, then we can formulate, or we can plan our tools accordingly, that which tools, which strategic management tool, strategic HR tool needs to be used in order to address that issue. Whether the issue is related to the organization design, then there is separate tools for this. Whether there's a issue with to handle the organization performance, then, or in order to engage the increase the organization engagement, then there's are the separate tools for them. So the thing is, we need to holistically find out, what exactly, or pin down what exactly the problem is, and then we can use that tool accordingly.
Yeah, I think the one tool, mentioning one tool would mean that one size fits all, which I think is not possible, because the organizations are of different sizes. They have different regions. Their spread is different. Their employee composition is different. So different organizations would require different management tools. And I think it is the holistic study, as Kashif said, that you can conduct and then select which one suits your organization the most. I'll take up two more questions, and one question, if my panelists allow, can I answer that question? If you guys allow me to answer one question myself. That is that question for the members: what should I do if I want to change a job from HR manager to HRIS analyst? I am posting to earn any kind of recommendation by HRIS specialists nowadays. I just want to be HRIS analyst, especially in the global, while Workday like cloud-based systems and all that. So whoever, this is Umar Farooq, I think. And why I'm taking this question, because it's got a lot to do with transforming yourself. And never think that when you're going and becoming an HRIS specialist or an analyst, you're actually parting ways with HR, because what you would be doing is actually, using HR as a baseline to understand what needs to be done through that system. Changing this career path would require you to actually go through initially I would recommend that you take some free courses. There are plenty of courses from Stanford, from MIT. You can go on these websites and you can sign up, and you can literally in like $20, $30, $40, you can get those courses. You can at least have a flavor whether you are okay with it or not. As far as the cloud-based system is concerned, I think that is a little bit of engineering involved in that. I think a better understanding what cloud actually means. Cloud-based systems are actually, there is an engineering part, then there's a client part, and then there is a server part to it. So I think we need to really understand what you mean by having a cloud-based system, and being an engineer with respect to that. And if that is what you want, becoming an engineer, I think you need to go to the college, because you really can't do that just by changing your field. You really need to have that knowledge, the technical knowledge that counts for it a lot. The last question that I would be posing, and anybody from the panelists can answer that, and I think I would request two panelists to answer this question. All panelists talked about pandemic situation with regards to employers and employees are facing. Being on the senior management positions, what role did the panelists play outside their organization and made a difference or contributed back to the society, being HR professionals? So who would like to take up on it?
I guess
yes, go ahead.
No, Zahid, go for it. You have much vast experience than any of us. You have so much in your, magic that you can enlighten all of us. No, go ahead, Zahid.
Thank you so much. In fact, I'm not very keen to talk much about it, for the reason that there are a few things that we need to do offline and beyond social media as well. So I think in our capacity, each one of us is doing something because we belong to community, we have people around us. So at least in my organization, in the last almost 2 months, we are not doing any business. We are not, into any commercial dealing, but yes, it is our obligations that we have a good network of the people. So, and we, at least we can relay the messages. We can provide updates. For example, HRM has developed a handbook which can be helpful to the organizations to come back to the new normal. I can do it without any cost consideration. So I think there are plenty of things on account of philanthropy as a social service. And as social services, I think not only outside the organization, within the organization as well, because your own people, they deserve a lot of consideration and people around you. So I think there could be a lot of things that can be done, but I would like to be very short. Rahim, please go ahead. We wanted to do something.
Sure, right. Thank you. I guess from our perspective, we can tell you that our employees actually jumped when I talked about the face shield and how from jewelry making we went into the making face shield. It actually didn't involve anybody from the manufacturing sector. So manufacturing was only still doing manufacturing for the jewelry. Our actually office staff jumped into it. So a lot of us actually came in and we learned how to do it, of course, with the help of engineers. And you'll be surprised that the face shield idea came from our software engineer. It didn't came from anybody in the manufacturing area. So that was a surprising thing as well. So all of us played our part. We came in during odd hours and odd days to help making face shields, even though we were working as office staff. The other thing was, I guess, in our capacity, what we've been doing as an HR people, I guess we're participating on all these forums and enlightening people with our experience and learning from others as well. In the past 3 days, I've been in 3 different, podcasts and different sessions like this. And again, we're trying to help people understand what we are going through and how can we contribute to that. I guess those are a few of the things. And I think since the pandemic has started, I have got so many calls from my friends, from my colleagues, from people that I've worked in the past, friends, families, God knows how many people that I've looked their contract. I have looked their termination, the things that they have gone through. So again, it's our part in how can we help in society in general, our friends and families. I think all of us are doing our part. And again, as we said, we are all going to deal with it, and we're going to deal with it together, and we're going to come out of this together as well.
Thank you so much. With this, I'd like to wrap up the webinar. Thank you so much, panelists. I think your views and your the way you took up questions, I can see a few people want more clarity on their answers, and I've volunteered to take their discussions offline so that everybody is, sort of has a feeling of being heard and understood. Before wrapping it up and closing it out, I'd really appreciate and request all of you, the audience that we have, to go through this feedback survey quickly. It'll take a few seconds so that we know where we want to improve, where we should improve, where there was an opportunity to connect with you guys more, and what our topics should be in the future. So I think just takeaway, that's the key takeaway. So please kindly do the survey, do this quick feedback survey. And I really thank all of you who've joined us. I hope that you've learned something and there are some very concrete things that you can take away from this webinar. Thank you, panelists. I really appreciate your time, your effort, your patience. And I know it's iftar time, so yeah. I can almost smell the pakoras and the samosas that are being made in my home. So I think I'll not make you guys wait more. So thank you so much. Thank you, Zahid. Your last word, if you want to say something, Zahid.
I think the feedback of the people is quite evident. I'm very happy that each one of us has taken time in this peak hours of the day to be together for this thought sharing process. So grateful to all the speakers for making it convenient, and all the participants for their contributions, for their patient listening, and also their value-added questions. I think this is how we learn and move forward. So hopefully, I think next week we are heading toward the Eid, inshallah. Afterward, we'll resume this thing. We'll continue with it, and we look forward to have more engagement in the future. Thank you all. All the best. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.